show me who your 5 people are. Who are the 5 people that are sharpening you, who are pouring into you, who are you pouring into? Because that will blaze the trail for you long term, because they are the people who hold you accountable every step of the way. And I had that. I had that in college, and like there are 5 of us. There are 3 physicians, 1 lawyer, and one of my friends who works in government.
So are tuned in to the Money Script podcast. Today we will share strategies to help you grow your financial literacy and improve your money script. I'll be back with some important announcements. Until then, enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Money Script podcast. It's your host, Johan Say. Yeah, I used all 3 syllables this time. And it's so happy to be with you here today. Already cracking up. We're going to have a good time today. I hope that all of you that are regular listeners, and when I call regular listeners, those people that are waiting every week for the new episode. So for those of you that are right on time, then you know we are just getting into the middle of probably February by the time you're hearing this. Hopefully we all got through the winter storm. It is cold in a lot of places right now. I just got a message from my insurance agent, and he said, I'm supposed to go wrap my faucets with towels and bring my hoses inside and cover up my bushes and check all my smoke detectors. He gave me a long list of things to do. And of course, Alicia said, "Did you get the list?" I'm like, "Yes, I got the list." So I guess I'll be busy after this podcast getting ready for this winter storm. So for those of you that are here with us on YouTube, shout out to all of our new YouTube subscribers. There were like 40 something new YouTube subscribers last month. Shout out to all of you. Hey, good to see you. Glad you could join us. And those of you that are listening, you have heard a little giggling. That is not just somebody in the background. That is our esteemed guests today. We have Dr. Nkem. I'm going to do this. You ready? Dr. Nkem Ezeamama.
That was good. That was really good.
All right. See, people, we are from a culture of names with lots of letters that people have to practice to be able to say. Yes.
And I appreciate it. Like, I really appreciate you trying and getting it.
Thank you. I practiced a little bit, y'all. I had to practice. I write it down phonetically. Like I write down how I think it's supposed to sound. Anywho, as I was saying, so happy to be with each and every one of you today. We have a very exciting show lined up for you today. You heard me probably say doctor. So for all of my residents and medical students out there, yes, I have one of your own. And we are going to be talking about her journey through medicine and how that transitioned, or I guess was an additional component of her journey in real estate investing. So I'm very excited to hear about her story. Before we dig in, as with all of our episodes, I do want to make sure that you can walk away with some financial literacy. Again, the purpose of this show, if this is your first time listening, is for you to get a dose of financial literacy. This is your freemium content that you get to receive from a financial advisor. I am a financial advisor by trade. I work with clients to help them make better decisions with their money, aligning their values with their financial goals and their financial behaviors. And I know that there's a lot of Americans out there, or wherever you are, all over the world, because money works the same just about everywhere. It has little nuances, but it all works the same. We have to work for it and get it, and then we have to make sure we don't spend more than what we have, so we have some left over for a later time. But I know that in our education systems, there's not a lot of tools that teach us how to manage the money that we have. And so we're left trying to pick up the pieces sometimes from making lots of mistakes. So if this podcast can help you make maybe one less mistake, can encourage you to go out and get some help, whether it's from a licensed attorney, from a CPA, or from a financial advisor, so that you can find out what your options are and make better financial decisions, then this podcast is a success. So again, for a lot of our regular listeners that are, waiting each week for the new episode, as I said, it's probably around about mid-February. So you are rapidly approaching tax time. I know on our previous episode, we talked about the using Roth IRAs and using the method known as the backdoor Roth IRA, as I say with air quotes. And I wanted to make sure that everyone is aware when it comes to taxes, that there are different methods that you have, especially if you are a individual with a very simple tax situation. There are methods where you can file your taxes for free. Okay. One of the first places you can go is right to the IRS website, irs.gov. And matter of fact, I think everyone should go to irs.gov, sign up to get your ID.me. That's where the government will know who you are. And don't sit there thinking, oh, I don't want the government to know who I am. If you have a driver's license, they know who you are. That's a government. Okay. But I encourage you to get your ID.me login credentials so that you can log into the IRS website and you can see past tax return history. If you owe anything, any communications that are coming from them, don't just rely on the person that's doing your taxes. Your taxes are your responsibility. I'm going to say that again. Your taxes are your responsibility. If you don't believe me, look at the mess that our ex-president is going through. Okay. His tax person was like, yeah, we lied. And he's serving time for it. Okay. And then guess what? Now the states are coming after the ex-president because ultimately his tax returns for his business are his responsibility. Now, the guy that lied, that's the whole perjury and some other stuff, but even his CPA went to jail. Okay. If they'll put his CPA in jail, and I'm just going to say this, I'm just saying it. I'm just saying it. If they will put a rich white man's CPA in jail, I'm just gonna stop there. Okay. I just need y'all to understand it's your responsibility. So I encourage you, set up your irs.gov, and on the website, there are resources for free filing. There's lots of Q&As that you can do on there where you can get answers to some of your questions. Outside of going directly to irs.gov and using their free file software, most libraries, I know I'm talking about an ancient term, but most libraries have a free filing service if you're under a certain income. Okay. Don't walk in there with $200,000 worth of income and look for the free service. Probably not going to happen. But if you are the medical student that just had the summer job and you made let's say made $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, lots of libraries will have that service for you. And then finally, there are the known partners that are out there that provide taxes that allow you to do taxes online. Probably the biggest one that most people know is TurboTax. Another one is H&R Block. And I believe, I think Cash App even has some sort of tax preparation software. I've seen a few clients come through with that. The thing I'll warn you with those systems is that you can't just click blindly. Okay, you're going to have to read the questions. I find more often that people will make mistakes on their return because they just didn't RTFQ. Okay, read the friggin' question. Okay, and if you don't understand the question, go to the IRS website and do some research, or click the help button, or pay some money to get some help. I shared this with you all in the last episode. We had a problem with the shower drain that just would not drain. I poured, I don't know, all the Drano in it. I probably like killed a few fish in the nearby lake with all the Drano I poured into and down that pipe. Okay. Now, could I go and get my tools and get a snake and all the other stuff and probably try to figure out how to clear the drain pipe? Yeah, I probably could. I could also just call a plumber. That's what I did. I called a plumber. Plumber came out, and yeah, he had to use a snake, and it was gross. That's the other reason why I just couldn't do it, because it was just gross. I was like, that is the one thing, people have those things that you just can't look at. For me, it's whatever comes out of that drain. I just I'm thinking about it right now. Okay. And guess what? The plumber was like, I'll just charge you $25. I was like, man, I got that in my pocket. Here you go. But I was happy to get it done. And he was willing to take care of it for me. And you know what? He could have told me it was $150. I would have still given it to him. Yeah. Why? Because I don't want to do it. It's beyond my scope of expertise. And I grew up with a father that was a general contractor. So believe me, there's lots of things around my house that I know how to do. Actually, that gets me in trouble because my wife's always like, don't you know how to do that? Like, I mean, yeah, but I don't want to. I don't want to do it. I'd rather pay someone else to do it. So moral of the story is set up your account on irs.gov. It's the best place to get information so that, and then you can even see letters before they show up at your house. So you're not like, oh gosh, I got a letter from IRS. Oh, I already logged in. I saw that. I knew that was coming. Okay. And you can communicate with them. And even if you owe, you can go right on the site and set up a payment plan. Oh, one last thing. The IRS did announce that because of their, what's the word I'm looking for? Slacking off over after coming out of COVID, they have decided to waive billions in penalties and fees for Americans. Okay. I just went on the website today because I wanted to look at it here. I pulled it up and they're currently working on it. It says, let's see. They just said on the website, it says, any payments that were made between December 26th, 2023 and January 19th, 2024 will process normally, but may take longer to show as process. Updated balances and payment activity will be available the week of January 21st. So it's already February now by the time you're hearing this. But if you saw a time where he's like, oh, wait, that's not right. I thought they were going to waive some stuff or I made that payment. They're updating the system because, like I said, they're going to give everybody some free money. Cool. Well, I guess it's not free. You thought you had to pay it for a minute, but they're going to waive some stuff, which is cool. So with that, let's get to you, Nkem. Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to get going.
We are going. This is it. Let's start let's start with medicine. So what type of medicine do you practice?
I am an emergency medicine physician. Yes.
Okay. As we met at ASAP. There we go. At the American College of Emergency Physicians. Okay. Okay. And how long have you been practicing?
I've been practicing for 8 years.
Okay. Okay. Now, were you one of those individuals that always knew you wanted to be a doctor, or were you one of those individuals where your parents said you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer, make your choice?
So, I am from an African family, so it's normal
that's why I insinuated that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's normal that, we're lawyer, physician, accountant, engineer.
But that one too. Yes.
Yes. That is the top three. But I don't know. I felt from a young age, I loved school. I loved science. I loved math. And so I knew that would be the path that I was on, and they encouraged me. But I was thinking about this recently because on another note, I'm starting to write a book, and I was just thinking about kind of background story, really what got me into it, really getting into the flow. And it wasn't one thing. It was just from a young age, I said, I'm going to be a doctor. And I am the type of woman who, I set my mind to something, it gets done. And I just use that. And I've loved it every step of the way. And like Johan said, I've done some of the coolest things in this world that like not a lot of people get to do. And it's because I get to walk into the emergency department. So I'm truly excited that like it was something that was placed in me, and then I nurtured that for who knows how long, and that's where I am today.
Wonderful, beautiful. So tell me, what was your experience transitioning from your bachelor's to medical school and then medical school to residency? Share with us a little bit about that.
So I will say this: a lot of that season was a blur. And that is because I was a microbiome major and I just studied. I remember taking organic chemistry, and I felt this pressure. I don't know where it came from, but like, to always be the best, but to like expedite my studies. Why? I'm not sure. So like I took summer school after summer school. One reason, I had bright futures. And so I had to work while I was in school to get scholarships. I was one of those students who had to work in the library or work. There was like a list of jobs. And so that was part. So I had to like structure school in order to work after classes. And so like being a microbiome major, I studied most of the time. But the thing is, the best part I can remember about that season is, and who I am today, I can attribute it to the people that I surrounded myself with. And that is the motto that I even use in life today. It's show me who your 5 people are. Who are the 5 people that are sharpening you, who are pouring into you, who are you pouring into? Because that will blaze the trail for you long term, because they are the people who hold you accountable every step of the way. And I had that in college, and like there are 5 of us. There are 3 physicians, 1 lawyer, and one of my friends who works in government. So like it's just really cool to see like from that young age that we had people who are like, we are on this mission, on this vision together, and let's get there by any means necessary. And so that was That was undergrad. I went straight through. I'll tell you the story. When I was applying to med school, I was, after I'd gotten into a bunch of schools, a lot of the schools I went to were their private schools are very expensive. And as you know, like when you go to med school, you're like, I'm walking in there. I know I'm going to take loans. My parents couldn't support me. And so I did something brave, and I called every single school that I had gotten into. And I said, I'm very excited. I want to be here, but I need help. And I said, I'll take out a certain amount of loan, but do you have any endowments, scholarships, anything that could help me? Because I'm like, I'm coming here. I definitely said that to multiple schools. But
let's pause on that for a second. So, because that is, I never have heard anyone say that. That is an interesting strategy. So when you say you called this, who did you call? I mean, you just called registrar, you called admissions?
I looked for the administrative assistant. And then, so I just called like to the medical school, like to the provost. And I just said, I just got accepted. What financial aid opportunities do you have for me? And one of the schools, the school that I went to, George Washington University, they had a list that I could apply to. And I just applied to everything. I was like, okay, yes, all these are available. I'm gonna, because I was walking into like each year a $60,000 fee, to like for medical school plus living plus expenses, and that was gonna add up if I didn't do something about it. I knew I'd still take on a chunk of loan, but I was like, how can we decrease this? And so like, I'm such a big advocate because sometimes we don't know all the opportunities that are available to us if we don't search for it ourselves, or if we're not told. So I just looked, I asked, and it was the best thing I did. Like I got some scholarship, not all, not even close, but at least I can say that like, it was easy. It was a little bit easier for me. And so I moved to DC, which is awesome. And I just focused on school. I wasn't that medical student that knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to use my hands. And so when I got to my third year, I was in it. So I went through surgery, I went through OB, I went through things that I felt like I could use my hands. And when I got to the ER, if you've ever been to the ER, I'm sorry, because it's probably not the best of times for you. But for me, it was almost like I was gliding. You never knew what to expect. And there was some fun and some excitement in that for me. Like one day I got to deliver a baby. Another day I got to give bad news to someone who had lost their family member. Another day I got to play, with a little kid. Another day I got to, it was just like all sorts, and some of the gory details I will leave out. But it was there that I realized that it's like I could see myself here. And I was lucky. I had a mentor, another young Black woman who was a few years ahead of me as a faculty member at school. And she just kind of held my hand, and I said, I'm really interested in emergency medicine. And so she took me from there. Every step of the way, she supported me. When I started applying for residency programs, she told me how many to apply to, where to apply to, what my interests were, what programs would really help me succeed. And that was, so I'm so grateful for her. And I'll talk a little bit about mentors and the importance of it, but I can say that I'm definitely very privileged to have had that. And so it was, for me, I was fortunate in that, of course, medical school was hard, residency was hard, but with the right support, with the right people, it can make the biggest difference in the world. And so I'm super grateful for that. So yeah, so it was, when I say it was a blur, I mean, long hours, study all the time, but it paved the way for me to be able to have big dreams. It paved the way for me to feel like I can stand, I can I can be an expert in a subject matter and know that I've had ample training. It comes with a level of trust that I don't take for granted, and of respect. So I'm, as hard as it is, I would, if I had some young person who's like, hey, I'm thinking about going to medical school, I will tell you the good, I'll tell you the bad, I'll tell you the ugly. But if it is something that you want to do, I will never dissuade you from doing it, because with the hard work, there's some ease that comes with it, and we get to really make a difference. And I didn't realize how much of a difference until COVID-19 really hit. And then I really realized that, okay, man, I'm in the front lines and we're doing
You
this.
are.
And so
You,
like
mhm.
it made it very different. Like one day I was like, wait, what should I sign up for? And but it was just in that season, there was a level of humility, of gratitude, of fear, of like a ton of fear, because I'm like, well, will I even make it till tomorrow? And so it's really cool to see all of that packaged into who I am, my dreams, my hopes, where I'm going. And that was like a lot of the fuel as to who I am today. So a little bit
You
about,
were only practicing a few years when COVID happened. So yeah, it
yes, I
was.
was fourth year in. So it was very brand new. Like I was still paying off student loans. I was just still getting my, still like foundation was like finally getting firm. So I was not at year 5. And so it was, yeah, it was very interesting, but like you got thrown into the wolves and you had to survive, and because your patients desperately needed you. So
Yeah. And it was amazing because it just happened all of a sudden. It was just like, it was one day. It was like, because I remember talking to some of my other physician clients and friends about COVID. And actually we had one of an ER doc on shortly. I think we had her in May of 2020. So shortly
yeah.
after COVID had
So it's
started, we had a
very,
lot of
yeah,
questions
yeah.
for her. But it was, I remember in February, I started to hear the rumblings of, man, the hospital's getting full. Everybody's coming in sick, some upper respiratory disease. We don't know what it is. And then the rumor mill was going, it's
Like,
a terrorist attack, and then the whole China thing was coming out too. Oh, this is China.
yes.
And then because I've shared the story on air before, but I was in Las Vegas at the MGM Hotel with some friends, going back to 5 people. We'll talk about that in a second, but I was there in the hotel, and the MGM that weekend was celebrating Chinese New Year. And so
Oh,
our hotel is full of Chinese individuals. And they had just announced, I think it was on that Saturday or Friday, they just announced that the Wuhan airport was closed. So, and they weren't letting anybody out and nobody in. And so we had this large congregation of people in the lobby at the MGM trying to make new arrangements. And I remember, we could do TV screens were on and we're just like, oh, Wuhan closed the airport. Okay, well, I don't know where people are going, but you're not going home. And I remember we were kind of laughing about it, like, man, they're gonna be in
but
Vegas all week. I hope they. And afterwards, within a week, the whole world had changed. And within 2 weeks after that, everything is shut
it
down.
was shut
And
down. Like,
yeah, it just happened so fast. So we appreciate you for being on the front lines and helping us all get through that trying time. I wanted to go back because you said a couple of things where listeners, viewers, I hope you were taking either mental notes or physical notes when she said it. So run it back and hear it again, but I'll repeat it for those in the back. Who are your 5 people? Do you have 5 people that you are spending considerable time with? Okay. Because we know in real life, when we think about this concept in real life, if we're talking about the 5 people we spend the most time with, they're usually not our mentors or peers. They're usually just our family. It's our
yep.
spouse, it's our kids, it's our siblings, it's our neighbors. It's those people that are in close proximity. But what we're talking about here is the intentional time, the chat group that you have that in your phone where you're lifting each other up. You're not putting in memes about the football game. You're asking, hey, that has everyone written down their goals for the quarter, But in your group of 5 people, I encourage you to have, if you can, try to have people that are on levels that are slightly above or even dramatically above yours. Okay. When I'm talking about that trip in Las Vegas, some of those individuals I go to Las Vegas with are in my 5. Okay. And part of it, and one of them is my mentor. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have this podcast. He was the one that challenged me to do this podcast for a whole year. And he finally said, hey, what's going on with the podcast? Okay. I'll start the podcast. And here we are 100 plus episodes later. Okay.
It's amazing.
But there's a saying that goes, if you want to be, I'm paraphrasing here. Actually, I'm kind of making my own actually, but I'm going to change it right now. There's a saying that I say, if you want to have a 6-figure net worth, add someone to your group that has a 7-figure net worth.
Agreed.
If you want to have a 7-figure net worth, add some people to your group that have an 8-figure net worth, and so forth and so on. Okay. You will get there faster, even if it's just through osmosis, even if it's just through being at the right place at the right time, or it's from being, because they may introduce you to the people you need to know. Because especially if they know your goals, like, oh, and if they know that they are your mentor, they are in your 5. Because I tell them, hey, y'all are my 5. You are the 5 people that I am able to get energy from and enjoy being with and want to emulate a lot of what you're doing. And I look to you for guidance.
Yes.
You're my friends
Yes.
and you're my mentors. How can I serve you? And that's the one question I ask. Hey, what can I do for you?
Yep.
And a lot of times, whatever it is they need me to do finds a way to make me some money. I'm like, oh, that's what you needed? They're like, yeah, well, I need you to help my friend. Oh, okay.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna charge your friend for that. I'm like, yeah, please do. Charge her. Okay, well, thank you for that. And then that friend leads to another, leads to another, leads to another. Okay.
And
Because
I'll add to this.
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Your goals don't scare them, because they are thinking, there's some people, if you really think about it, there's some people who you're afraid to tell your goals to, because they'll think you're crazy. They're like, you're never going. But when you surround yourself people who are a step ahead of you, 5 steps, when you tell them your goals, they're like, okay, how are we going to get this? Like, what are we doing?
Or they're looking, or mine will look at me like, that's it. I'm like, come on. Like, well, I guess I'll add another 0 to it. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, yeah, it's that saying, if your dreams or goals don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough.
Yes.
Okay. You should be a little intimidated by them. Okay. And I'll admit to all of you, I've set goals that I didn't even hit. It was too big. But it's that saying of aim for the stars and you still have to make it to the moon first.
Yeah.
Okay. How many people do you know that have been to the moon? Okay. There's not many people that know someone that went to the moon. There's not many people. Okay. So most of you listening to this do not know personally anyone that's made it to the moon. Okay. I don't think any of your goals involve getting to the moon. So everything else you're planning on doing is way more attainable than getting to the moon. Okay. So if you want to aim a little bit beyond that, you're going to have to pass by the moon first.
100%.
So with that, you also mentioned mentor, and we've talked about that a little bit, but having a mentor is important. I serve as a mentor. I am a mentee. I'm on both sides of the coin.
Yes.
Okay. And it doesn't matter where you are. If you're just now starting medical school or just now starting college, you can be a mentor for someone that's still in high school.
100%.
And you can be a mentee to someone that's at a level that's a little above you. Okay. So seek out those people. Most people want to do it. Just no one's asking them. No one's asking them. And then the last thing you said that I thought was paramount. And I mean, we were talking about our parents earlier. My mama, closed mouths don't get fed.
They sure don't.
You said, I called and asked.
Yeah.
That is such a small task. It's scary though. It is scary because you know what could happen is the person pick up the phone and say, you're crazy. Why would you call and ask me that question? Get off my phone. You're wasting my time. That could happen.
100%. But
they might say,
else happens?
They might say, hold on 1 second. Let me get some resources for you.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can happen. So I encourage you. And that's, you know what, that's one of the number one questions that I get from graduates that are looking to go to medical school, because they come to me as a financial advisor, like, how am I going to pay for this? Like you said $60,000 a year. Whew, you're getting off easy. I got some folks paying $80,000, $85,000, $100,000 a year for medical school, especially if it's out of state or if it's out of the country. Those sort of, it could be a lot of money. And then when you take into housing, like, how am I going to pay for this? They come asking me. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I'm not the resource, but did you ask the institution?
Yeah.
That's going to be my number one response now. Well, have you asked the institution? I know they're asking you for money. Ask them for some. They have it.
They have it. They do. Tons of endowments, tons of successful people who are, very wealthy people who want to give back to, to the institution that got them to where they are. And so it's just, you have to ask, you have to do the work. You have to do the work.
Have to do the work. Amen. Amen. So I want to talk a little bit about your latest venture. I shouldn't even call it a venture, as your latest investment, because you when we met at ASEP, you were actually there representing Phoenix Capital. Okay, which for those
Yes.
of you that are seeing that at the bottom of the screen here, the Phoenix Capital. This is a real estate company that you started. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got interested in investing in real estate and why
Yes.
you felt that that was a good idea?
Okay. I will. I hope I don't bore anyone, because this is very, very interesting, especially to the healthcare professionals who are listening on this call. I told you how important COVID-19 was, but I didn't really tell you how much it hurt some of us. In that season, there were a lot of people, a lot of healthcare professionals who lost their jobs, just like every other field. But what we didn't expect is that, like, we always thought, in healthcare, your jobs are secure. There's no questions asked. You will always have a job. And in that season, a lot of us lost jobs. And sometimes when our hours got cut significantly, a lot of physicians, wealthy people, had to get second jobs. And to me, that was eye-opening, because I thought, we are high income earners. We should all be financially secure and financially
Oh,
stable.
time out.
That
Time out.
was
Yeah,
not
time
true.
out. Yeah. And actually, I gotta back you up. We're not gonna edit it out, but I'm gonna back you up, because you said wealthy people had to get second jobs. No, what you found out is that they weren't wealthy.
Oh, you're right. You're right.
They were just a
Okay,
high
yes,
income earner. That's all they
that
were. They
is true.
had
That
high
is very
income,
true.
and they had the expenses to match it. And all of a
Yes.
sudden the income
And
went away, and they weren't willing or weren't able to cut the expense. And so they had no other
true.
choice. They're
Because
like, nah,
with
I'm
lifestyle
keeping the
creep.
Range Rover. I'm not turning the Range Rover in. Oh, well, wait, I got to make this payment.
Yep.
Yep.
It's true. Very,
Mhm.
very true. And like, what you're talking about is lifestyle creep. And that's where, like, as you make more, you start living a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying the toil of your labor. There's nothing wrong with that. But then at some point, you really can't keep up. And I found that was what was happening. And so it was in that instance that I really felt in my heart that I needed to take care of my financial well-being. I needed to figure out what it meant to not only rely on one income, but to really learn to diversify. And I was fortunate, I grew up with parents. It's funny. I grew up with parents who did not finish elementary school, but they understood the importance of education. And so they were very hard. My dad is a serial entrepreneur. He worked really
Wow.
hard, and he instilled that, in us. My mom is also an entrepreneur. She's a small business owner, and they're both in Nigeria. So that was what was instilled in me, even in this medical route that I was on. And so I started thinking, what does it mean to really grow wealth? What does it mean? And to not be afraid to think that, to not be afraid that, yes, I'm a physician, but like, how else can I really build stability for myself, for my future, for my family, for my friends, for my colleagues? And so I started looking into investing. I started with stocks, insurance, and I also got into real estate. So I'm not, of course I champion real estate, but I invest in a lot of different vehicles because I think it's very important. And so I started thinking, what are other alternative assets that I can use to grow wealth? And I remember reading this saying. Andrew Carnegie said that 90% of millionaires make their wealth through real estate. And so I started off small. I started off as a passive investor. I took some money and I said, I could leave it in my savings account, which was doing me nothing at 0.03%. I kid you not. Or I could try and invest in an apartment complex that would get me at least 7% a year. And that's what I was getting. And so I tested it. And it went really well, my first one. And then I realized I did another deal. And I did a third deal. And then as a passive investor, that means I just put my money and let my money work for me while I worked in the ER. And at some point, I realized that friends and family and colleagues at work started asking, hey, what are you doing? Tell us a little bit more. You've had some success in this. And I really started with education. And I said it before, there's that gap where we are high income earners, but we really don't know anything at all about really how to build wealth, how to secure our future. We go from, and there's nothing like, I believe in what Johanse does. And we go from making a lot of money and then just like saying, I don't know what to do with it. Let's hand it to someone to do everything for us. And I thought, we have to learn, like, this is we have to know how to steward our wealth. And that's really how, and then I realized that I wanted to bridge the gap. I started learning about it and I started teaching. I started empowering others. I'm like, hey, come to this webinar. I'm going to this conference. This is what I'm doing. And so it really just skyrocketed from there. And then I realized that like there was space for me to do this and to really bring in other healthcare professionals as a way to grow wealth. And so that's how Phoenix came about. It came from a place of just like we'd been quiet. We had not been doing the things that we needed to do. And it was time for us to like rise and soar and really take control of wealth. And so that's how it started. We bought a property and we invested in 3. We bought one, and then we just continued growing from there. And it has been a very exciting journey because I've had colleagues join in on the journey with me, and they're all making money. And so it's very interesting to just see, going from like, hey, I'm getting 3 jobs to now I can practice medicine fully. I can be passionate about that, but I also know that like, okay, money is growing from here and it's growing from here. It's in this vehicle, it's working here, I'm doing this with this. And we'll talk, and now our conversations are different. It's a lot more fun. It's like, okay, what are we doing? What's the next investment? How can we grow? When's the next webinar? What are you teaching on? And that's how, and it started small. Sometimes when we have these big dreams in our hearts, we feel like it needs to come today or tomorrow. But what I did, and I'm so grateful for, and it was a mentor who instilled that in me, was a long-term approach where we're building wealth for tomorrow, for like the 5 years, 10 years. And so like, if I don't see it today, it doesn't diminish the work that we're doing. And that's the thing with real estate investing. Like it's not a get rich quick scheme. So you're not going to make loads of money tomorrow, but it's a compounding. So you do a little bit now, you do a little bit now, and you're reaping the rewards. But then, in 3-5 years, that's when it's like, okay, oh, wow, I got this. Let me use it for something else. Let me grow something else. And that's the beauty of it. And so that's how it started. And I'm grateful because I'll say this, and for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about entrepreneurship, there was that mindset that I had to overcome, this identity that my identity was rooted in medicine from a young age. I started medical school when I was 20. And so like from a young age, it was like all that was, like, it's all I knew, like school. And so to be able to like venture into something else, to be able to realize that like, yes, my name is Nkem, I'm a physician, I'm a real estate investor, I'm a speaker, I'm going to be an author soon. Like those things, like I was empowered to think bigger. And I think that when you're thinking about doing something else, whether you want to call it like with the gig economy that we're in, whether you want to call it a side gig or side hustle or whatever it is, sometimes we as physicians or healthcare professionals, we're so afraid because all we are and all we know, we've worked so hard for is that title. But it's not only that. And when people see what I'm doing, I'll never forget this. I'll tell you this quick story. I had a woman, an African woman, call me. And after this call, she doesn't know this, but I cried. And she called me and she said, I am so proud of what you're doing. She said, a lot of us had these dreams and we didn't go after it. So she was like, to see what you're doing. And then she said, I would love to have my daughters just talk to you. I would love for you, because my daughters are in early 20s and this is the time to like mold and shape them. And I was blown away. And it's not because I had amassed this great wealth or this, like this was the most uber successful thing, but it was that every day I made the decision to keep going. I made the decision that like hard was not going to stop me. Like there's on my background, one of my like, in my vision board, one of the things is like, I can do hard things. So it's not like I didn't expect magic one day, but I was just, I'm going to keep going. And the one thing that I thought was that another mentor told me was like, you need to tell people what you're doing. Closed mouths don't get fed. And so it's just about just sharing with the world. I'm doing this today. I had this conversation. I invested in this. I went to this webinar. I'm at ASEP. There's nothing wrong with sharing with the world what you're doing because you don't know that one person that you're going to impact, that one person that you're going to touch, or that one person is going to be like, I didn't think this is possible. And now like that's like on this journey to greatness. So that's how it started. It started as just It started as a need. It started as a desperate need where, this was not going to be my story. I wasn't going to work from paycheck to paycheck. I was going to learn really how to build wealth. And then I was going to bring people alongside, like my siblings are like excited. Like my younger sister called me, she goes, I am going to invest in your next deal. And that like blew my mind, but she's working hard now. She's like, I'm saving, so it started with that. And like my colleagues at work, like I'll be at work and they'll be like, hey, this property, what do you think about it? Or can you add me to your list? Like, I want to know. And so that's where it's like, I got proof of concept and now I'm sharing it with the world and to see, and some people are not ready. You'll learn that there'll be a lot of no's along the way, but that's okay.
There's gonna be more. There'll be more no's than yeses. That's just the way it works.
True.
More people. There are gonna be more people than tell you it's not gonna work. It can't work. They don't want to do it. You're crazy.
Yes.
I heard it all too. I remember people trying to talk me out of doing a podcast. For what? You're not going to make any money. You're going to be spending all that time. Here I am. So you talked a lot about your past. And one of the things that we ask all of our guests, and because you were talking about your upbringing, you're talking about your parents being entrepreneurs in Nigeria. So I'm really curious. I'm sure all of our listeners are curious too. Like, oh, I wonder what her money story is. So with that, what is your first memory of money?
Okay. I have a question. Is it like I'm a kid, 5 years old, and someone hands me a $1 bill, or was it when money became significant? What is that?
Let's do both. I like both. Let's start with the first one.
Okay.
So when did you be? And so the reason we like starting with the first one is because, for those of us, for the adults in the room, the parents, not adults, for the parents in the room, we a lot of times are part of the first introduction of money to our children, and for the grandparents that are raising kids, that sort of thing. So that's one of the reasons why I like to talk about it, because I want the parents to say, if they're not going to teach this to my child in school, how can I begin the conversation and to become more conscious of what you're saying around your children when it comes to money? A lot of us are victims of money doesn't grow on trees, or money isn't everything, or money is the root of all evil. No, money's just a tool. You can do evil things with it, but it's just a tool.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's start with your first memory of money, and then you can share a bit about when it became significant.
So for me, if I remember, so I come from a big family. I'm one out of 7 children, and I'm on the bottom side of the 7, number 5. And when during like Christmas season, my parents would give us a little bit of money. It would start from the top, and the older you are, the more money you got, and the younger you are, it comes with age, because at some point I'll get to that age and the same thing will happen. At least that's how I was raised. And so, my older sister would get a lot, and then my brother would get a little bit, the next brother, and it get to me, and I won't get a lot. And so the 3 of us, the last 3 kids, and this was on me, but the last 3 of us, we would combine our money together. And so that like whatever we did, we were like, 3 of us together was still like, it wasn't as much as the other ones, but like we could do so much more together as like 3 of us. So we would always like come together, like, okay, what do you really want?
Kim, hold on. Stop. Wait, do you realize that you're still doing that today?
Yeah.
That's
like
talk about a callback. What?
Yeah. So that's what we do.
People, this is why I want you to be in touch with your first memories of money, because there is a chance that those first memories are still influencing you today. She talked about how she's pooling assets from coworkers, from family, from friends, so they can do more as they come together in her real estate business 30 some odd years later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. That might be one of the best money stories I've heard. That was good. That was good. That one's going to be on repeat on Instagram for a little while. Wow. Okay. So when did money become significant?
Okay. So, man, I'm so grateful. I don't take for granted my upbringing. Between undergrad and med school, summer break before I was about to start med school, my dad called me and said he wanted me to spend 6 weeks back in Nigeria working at an investment bank. And he said, and I didn't even like it. Didn't. I'll tell you how it's impacted me today. And in going there, he said that he's asking me to say yes to this opportunity. He was not dissuading me from going to medical school. He just said, open your eyes to something else that's out there. And I told you with this, like we started off with like no money. And as my dad was a serial entrepreneur, he, with everything that comes with risk, you make a lot, you lose a lot. So I've known times of really good. I've known really times of like really great at home, and I've known times of like a ton of lack. And
we up.
And in
we
this
down,
season,
we down.
And in that season, I came back home and I spent about 6 weeks working at an investment bank, and he gave me a sizable sum of money and said, I want you, this money is not for you to pocket. This money is for you to invest. And it's to invest in the country in whatever way you want. So in that, and that was like part of coming back home. And he wasn't bribing me. He was just like, it's an opportunity. You're starting med school, come do something different. And I don't, I put it in some stocks and some property in some different stocks that are not doing really well now in some sectors that really tanked in Nigeria. But it taught me there, which is even more valuable now, is that it didn't matter the path that I was on, it was still, money was still significant. And it's not like, the love of money, the root of money, the root of all evil. It's not about that, but it was just like, I want you to understand how this can play a part in your future. And it so happens that now I'm in real estate investing, but I fully did not comprehend why he made me do it. And he didn't make me, he asked me. And it was a fantastic opportunity. And I don't remember, I still get dividend checks from all these investments I did years and years ago. And it's really amazing. But now I get it. Now I understand why you need to learn. I understand why he wanted me to pause in that instance and learn something new, something different, something that would only add to the fullness of who I am today. So I'm so grateful for that. And I remember when he gave me that money and I was like, I could use this for something. I could put this into medical school. I could do all this, but that was not the intention of it. It was like, I want you to fully understand how to invest. I want you to understand the power of it, and I want that to be something that you take with you moving forward. If you don't do anything with it, that's okay. And he's not like he could see the future, that he was like, I will end up, becoming an entrepreneur and investing. But I just think it's really amazing. And that was the first time. And I really revisited that memory just in recent months when I started thinking about kind of my past and, like outlining the book. And it's really amazing. So when you don't realize like how powerful your upbringing is, your childhood, the people that really impact you, some for good, some for bad. But so to be able to like really understand that, appreciate that, and use that moving forward, you can use it. You can always use anything for your good. It's just really how you look at things. And it's really the mindset that you use in everything you do. So I'm grateful for that. And yeah, if you had asked me a few months, I would have forgotten about it, but that the memory, just thinking through, looking at pictures of like wearing a suit and going to work at a bank. And it just, it's really, really neat. So I think that was it.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So I am imagining your book starting with when I was young in Nigeria and it was the holidays or birthday and they were giving out money. I would get the least amount, me and my two younger siblings, but we were smart. We would pool our resources together. It's a great start because I know where you are now. I'm sure you got some other good stories in there too, but I think that's a good one. Well, listen, Nkem, I really appreciate you. We all appreciate you spending some time with us here on the Money Script podcast. What is your website if individuals want to learn more about your real estate company?
It is www.phcinvest.com. One word.
Okay, we will put those in the show notes as we always do. And again, reminding everyone, set up a profile for yourself on irs.gov so you can keep up with your taxes. You got a profile at American Express, you got a profile at Bank of America, Wells Fargo. You give more money to the government than you give to anybody else. So you might as well have an online profile with them too. Also, remember to get some help. Okay, reach out to a professional. Who are your 5 people that you look to help uplift what you're trying to do? My dog thinks it's over. So it's the dog. She's like, oh, he's wrapping up. Maybe it's the tone of my voice. It can't be the words. She's like, are we going outside now? Remember, the dog's out. They need the fresh air. If you and remember you can be a mentor. You can also be a mentee. It's okay to be both. So please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to get their dose of financial literacy today. Subscribe, link, share, like, all those fun things on all those platforms. And we will see you next time on the Money Script Podcast. Y'all take care.
Bye.
I'm back. Wasn't that a great show? I hope you learned something. I know I did. Now, before you go trying anything you heard today, remember, it is not intended to be specific tax or legal advice. If you need that, go see a CPA or an attorney. If you would like any complimentary consultation with a knowledgeable advisor, visit moneyscript.com and schedule a 15-minute consultation. Want Johans to come speak at your next event? Go to the Money Script website for that too. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. Money Script Wealth Management is a registered financial advisory service in multiple states. Want to learn more? Get the full disclosure on our website, moneyscript.com.